that would be taken over by the development, depending on which one.
Does the village have an answer for parking?
I think they're building more parking on the north side of the tracks. That's what we've heard. I can't say that officially, but that's what we've heard. Maybe even where next to the firehouse.
They said that the Hammerschmidt lot is expected to take up a lot of the parking that is occurring in the 101 main lot at this time. And they will be doing at least a traffic study. I can't presume to know that they'll do a parking study, but they are going to be doing a traffic study as part of the development of 101 main. I know parking is a concern for commuters.
Now, I understand that part of it might be condos on the site. What is the other part?
So one of the bids is condos, yes. On the first floor, there's going to be, I'm not sure, they're not sure what it's going to be, but it's going to be something for the people who live there. So it would be off like a computer room or a coffee shop, but it's going to be an amenity deck for the people who live in the condos. And then there's going to be space. It's kind of confusing because they've updated their plans a bit since the community weighed in, and the community very clearly wants more community space. So in that plan, they've created what they're calling an amenity deck, but it's a very rough drawing, so it's hard to say what exactly that looks like. So that would be one building, and that building would be on the corner of Main and Parkside. And the food co-op itself would sit kind of near Rust on Main. To be a separate building, which is great for us. We want to be a separate building. It gives us a lot more control. The other development is a mix of local businesses. So it includes, they have leases obviously from the co-op. There would be a food hub type community space in the middle that can be rented out by the community for a variety of different things. There is a brew pub and a farm-to-table restaurant as part of that concept. Yeah, it's a really cool concept. So, yes.
The polls we've heard.
Yeah, the polls, the people have very clearly weighed in that seems to be the clear community preference.
More businesses, yes.
Yes.
We don't need more condos. And what do the poor people that are going to buy into those condos see?
Well, they're actually apartments too.
Yeah, but they're going to see the railroad tracks.
Right.
They're going to hear the railroad.
Right, and the village has a tough decision because there's such different bids, and financially they're very different bids. One takes a lot longer to be sustainable financially. So, you know, I think that's why it's taking the village a little bit longer to decide, because they're two very, very different concepts with two very, very different financial pictures. So, but they're both deemed financially feasible by the third-party review.
And whatever one they should pick, even though you may be excited for one, please keep supporting Prairie Food Co-op.
Yes.
Are those proposals available?
Yes, so they were in an email, but we're gonna put that email content on our website, correct?
Yeah.
So yes, we will, they should be on our website within the week, on our blog area.
Now, when these buildings are built, I mean, you'll be a developer, but who will own the buildings? And would the co-op be an owner or just renting?
We would be renting.
So even if it's a separate building, okay.
Right, so as part of the bid with the apartments, we would be our own separate building. With the other bid, with the other businesses, we would be in the middle of a line of businesses. And that one also does have some community space available as well as part of that.
Kathy, which one of the two ideas would be the most beneficial or make the money sooner than the other? Can you tell us that?
The one with the apartments would be, is the financial safe bet for the city, because when you're talking about having a lot of locally owned businesses, it's just there's bigger startup costs and there's more risk. So, yeah.
But I think in terms of the co-op itself, it's not really clear which one is going to be better for the co-op financially.
Right, yeah, it's interesting because they both have pros and cons. So one is better, one in with some pieces of what the co-op needs, and the other is better. different pieces that the co-op needs, and the pros and cons kind of outweigh each other. And that's why we've remained very neutral. This village has asked us many times, do you prefer one of these over the other? And we've shown them to our consultants, we've shown them to other store general managers and said, let us know which of these work better. And they really said that they're both equal when it comes down to the pros and cons kind of outweigh each other, so.
Yeah, and I think what Kathy was mentioning too about the financial picture, the one that includes the condos, that's their bread and butter business. They have been doing that all over the place. They've seen success being right by railroads. That's what they like to do. So they have really deep pockets, and they're able to self-fund a lot of it. Whereas the other development is, it's
Local.
not exactly
It's a local
like us, but it's
developer.
local, and so it takes that community buy-in and community support financially. And it's so, I don't know, it's not as up and running from a financial health standpoint as quickly as this other one that has those deep pockets.
Yeah, the one with more local businesses needs more TIF money. And as the financial feasibility consultant said, that makes complete sense. This developer needs more TIF money. It's a little bit riskier, and it makes sense that we have a TIF for that reason, so. Did someone else have? Yeah.
I guess it seems, from what you said, I understand, but I guess the one that has to do with the local one and the local restaurants just seemed like it would bring in more traffic over time, where the other one would be more solid, but it wouldn't have as much traffic moving around and coming in from outside if they did bring people from outside of Lombard.
Yeah, and I think that's a hard thing to predict and measure, because you have each developer obviously makes very compelling arguments. The one that has the condos is telling us, but you have all those people in those condos that are gonna shop at your grocery store, and they're already there, and they're also gonna patronize all the other businesses. There's some people who have come to those meetings and had concerns about the businesses from the other ones cannibalizing other businesses. And so, I don't know what magic you have to study and measure to know which one is
But
the
there weren't
right
that
one.
many businesses in the one with the condos.
Right, so that would be a criticism of the other one.
It seemed like the information on the solidity of the particular other businesses that were going to be there with the co-op seemed like, God, they already have a name and everything, and somebody
Yeah.
already, and it's like, wow, and so I thought it was pretty, so like you said, it's a local developers that.
Well,
makes
they're
it
all
different.
local businesses, I
Yeah.
guess they all have startup costs and
Yeah.
not necessarily those deeper pockets that
Yeah.
other developer has.
I hear you.
Fairly
Right.
clearly
Too bad
has
they
made
can't
in their
combine
case,
forces
yeah.
and go again.
Right,
Yeah.
that would be great.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen, but it would be great. I
think whichever one sort of prevails and moves forward, it's a positive step for Lombard that land is gonna be developed. And so you're gonna have some people that aren't happy with that decision, but overall, it's gonna be a really positive net gain for the community of Lombard. And the fact that we get to build our co-op there, and the co-op itself being the first one in DuPage is gonna pull from a wider community like myself, who's gonna pass 5 or 6 grocery stores to get to the co-op. This is it's gonna be a boom for Lombard too. Either way.
How many apartments are there?
There were, I'm not sure, they scaled it down because people were concerned with the height of the building, especially the housing that runs across the street there. So they scaled it down. I think it's a total of 3 floors. It was 4 floors. And they're not huge. I think they're 1 to 3 apartment, spaces. So, or 1 to 3 bedroom apartments. So they're not huge. So there's more that, they need the density to make their project feasible.
Yeah, I wanna say it was between 180 and 120.
Yeah, it was closer to 200 at the start, but the community very clearly wanted less in that area, so they scaled it back, and they replaced some of that with the amenities.
They're luxury apartments. And so the market they're appealing to are empty nesters who want a lot of amenities And millennials who are used to dorm rooms that have all of these amenities in them, apparently, and I didn't have that when I went to college.
It's a specific group that they're targeting, yeah.
I think there'll be like a door.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
And
Concierge.
it's gonna be upscale.
It's, yeah.
Yeah, I hear you, but that's good.
Are they worried about the competition from like Yorktown and those buildings?
They haven't mentioned that they are. I don't know, and I don't know that those questions haven't been
Are the
answered.
Yorktown, are those over 50?
The huge development is 55 and over, but there are other apartments that are a little more upscale, near Yorktown.
There's like two.
But they're envisioning people who wanna have easy access to the, city, so you're right across the train, so it's kind of, I would imagine appeals to a different set of people.
Will that, one with the condos or apartments, will that have parking garage or?
Yes, so they're gonna have slightly underground parking for the residents, and then we will have the above ground parking lot for the co-op. And that is the real benefit to that one for the co-op, is there's a lot more parking allocated to the co-op. Whereas in the one with the additional other businesses, we would be sharing parking, and for a grocery store, it's critical that we have enough parking. So,
Especially in summer.
yeah, people don't walk to the
How
grocery
many
store.
square feet are we going to have? What
About
size?
12,000.
Well, it's gonna depend actually on the development that gets picked. And so once we know the development that gets picked and we have a better idea, are we gonna be in the middle of other businesses, or are we gonna be our own store, and how much parking are we gonna have? Those are critical factors in the size of the store we can be. So we will be probably between 8,000 and 12,000 square feet, depending on the parameters of the development. So it's going to be a full service grocery store experience.
And we will carry sustainable food and,
Yes, it's probably not going to be the only food, because there's also a lack of grocery stores in the area, as we all know. So we also want to draw in people who just want to go to a grocery store, and we don't want to leave that
and
out.
with these fancy people that live upstairs, we're going to have a nice, area for food like
Like
sandwiches,
caviar.
hot.
And see, and that's a good point. That is one of the things that will drive some of the types of products and services we offer.
Yeah, I mean, we do plan on having like a lot of what you see, a lot of more grocery stores that have kind of figured out what to do, like more prepared foods, more grab and go. So we really do plan on being like to serve, a community that is much more, on the go, and more of the newer things you see at grocery stores.
And also to educate people about how they can be cooking more nutritionally and using all of our sustainable foods and all the wonderful things too. Because I think, today's market isn't really as interested in cooking, so hopefully we can engage more to do more of that. But yeah.
And speaking of owner engagement, you had that, I think, who was it?
Carrie.
Was it you, Jerry, that had something about, you had a couple bullet points. One was classes, the other was workshops. Was that thinking ahead of when the stores open or doing that beforehand?
Oh, and that slide was beforehand, but frankly, both of those things I would like to have. Most co-ops have some form of community outreach, and a lot of ones who, are being built, maybe they even have a little classroom or something. So we definitely want to continue the community outreach, cooking classes, wine and cheese pairings, cooking for your dog, just whatever you can think of. We would love to have some, whatever the community wants.
And access to go to the homeless.
Say what?
Access to go to the homeless.
Yeah, working
Yeah.
with food pantries
Mhm.
and having programs for helping those in need.
Yeah, most co-ops have a pretty robust accessibility program that does a variety of different things.
More comments, questions?
I have one little comment.
Okay.
I can't get your newsletter off my computer, and I print it out so I can read it later and look at it and read it better because my eyes aren't that good. can you format it so that I can just print it?
Almost if you have a hard time.
You can also, can you try, there's always a link that says view in your browser and that makes it bigger. I don't know if you've tried that, but.
Oh, I've tried making
Yeah.
it bigger, but then it cuts it off.
Yeah, and you have to scroll.
Yeah, and if you
Yeah.
flip it, it doesn't work either.
Maybe we can
Landscape.
talk about that in a minute, and I'll try to figure out, yeah. You know, I'm always trying to be accommodating.
Once it opens, then you get a flood of owners, or?
Yeah, well, ironically, if any other co-ops are, the irony is that when you open, that's when you get the most owners.
Is there any others being planned in the area?
Not anymore.
Oh,
Nope.
really?
We've
No
been
building
kind
park
of-
or anything?
Nope.
We're the,
We're at between.
well, shared harvest.
Well, Shared Harvest is in Elgin. Sugar Beets open in Oak Park.
Yeah.
That's
There
it.
were a couple around here, like Batavia, Villa Park, they've kind of.
They've decided that they don't have the resources to.
So I noticed that there's Pete's Market struggling to open, and so it seems like the landscape's always shifting, so is there a sort of a plan to be really adept on our feet about?
Well,
That's why we review our pro forma every week with our
Okay.
consultants. I mean, that's a really good point. The grocery industry is changing extremely rapidly. I mean, monthly. It used to be when we started, you would see changes over a year. Now you're seeing things change from month to month, and new stores are stores are closing, and then new stores are coming on. So I think that the market in general is trying to respond to a very quickly changing consumer buying habits, basically. So
But no
We're-
matter what, we're unique. I mean, we're one co-op in the area.
we've adjusted our pro forma to the way stores are performing more lately, so going back to like, we're very on top of all of this. So.
yeah, and the interesting thing is, you know, for co-ops, the biggest competitor used to be Whole Foods. And ironically, that has now changed because of the Amazon buyout. Whole Foods is no longer really focused on local. They've left their farmers in the dust. So, and it's been terrible actually really sad for local farmers. So truly now co-ops are, again, as they were in the 60s and 70s, the true and only option for a lot of the local farmers, which is sad, but it's the reality.
All right, well, thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much.